Alright, it is 9:26 a.m. November the 2nd on a Tuesday, and there are two stocks right now on the main watch list, but of course on the other watch list, if anything starts to look interesting, if it's up a lot, if it's just showing some kind of price action that I like, I'll add it here. But right now IND and AABB are the two ones that I'm looking at, and I absolutely completely ignored IND yesterday because it was looking very weird at the market open, and then it actually did try to come back. I'm not really sure what to do with this one because it's kind of like a third green day if we count this day, and then today might be the fourth day, so I'm not necessarily trying to be that interested or aggressive trying to be long a setup on this fourth day, just like AABB, which seems to me something that traded like a lot of the OTC runners back in February. And in February I was not trading OTCs because I didn't want to pay commissions on E-Trade, so I would just focus on listed stocks. So I didn't really get to really participate in a lot of these OTC runners. It wasn't until just around that month that I just started the transition into OTC, so I didn't really get the full grasp on some of these, just except for looking at it, not necessarily trying to trade it or understand it. But this one is also like having those little nice moves throughout the day, and then it has like a gap up. So maybe it's gonna have like a panic today, but maybe you'll try to do some kind of tricks. I'm more inclined to be a short seller, but I'm just gonna let this one be. It could do something pretty cool. But yeah, these are the two main stocks on the watch list. If I am long, I'm gonna be really hesitant because it is the fourth day on both of these. So yeah, that's what I have in mind right now, and as well as anything else that looks clean on the other watch list. Alright, it is 9:42 and there are no morning panics that I'm really that interested in. There is one that was a little interesting, but not enough for me to really trade it. I guess we'll just go over it. NLST, I liked it because it looks clean, but the issue is that VWAP is super close to the bottom. It looks like it's actually failing right now, but at the time, let's just say 750 would have been an ideal entry price, and then VWAP is 766, so that's pretty close. That's a $7 stock. It's not a lot of range, and that was the setup there only because it was looking clean. And from what I learned last week, I did kind of keep myself out of this trade. Now I don't know if I would have traded it with what I'm going to say because VWAP was close, but I've started to learn that it doesn't always fail like it did here, but sometimes when they get really desperate and they really want the stock to go up, right? They really want to. They're going to keep the bid at 742, and let's just say the ask is 744. They will get rid of 744. And then they'll make it like 750, right? And then people start hitting the ask, and then they're hoping that a bunch of yuppies are going to jump in on the bid and push the bid up, and then they can keep trying to artificially or in a very weak and desperate way make an uptrend. So that was clearly the case here. They were trying to mess with that. Some poor people got executed at 760, I guess, and then they were trying that same thing, and it was working a little bit, but I knew not to really trade it. And this is an example where I would have traded a larger size than I would have been normally comfortable with if I was interested in trading this, which I wasn't. But because of the fact that I have to do my like freaking dollar risk level, which at the time is $8, I first had 50 shares, just not really thinking about dollar risk level, but I was thinking in theory I could be in at 750, which will be 375, and if I cut losses, which would have been if this level right here 747 broke, and then I say, well, what if in theory there's some slippage? So 740 is the level that I'm gonna have to cut. So you can see 370, 375, so that's a $5 risk level. So because I'm trying to trade 8, I will do 100 shares, which yes makes it a $10 risk level, but I don't want to trade a random like 70 shares. Maybe it will be hard for that order to get executed because it's such an awkward number in theory. Sometimes it just goes into one of these chunks. I don't know how everything works with market makers and stuff like that, but that's an example here what I would have traded much larger than what I would have normally have considered. Well, only because of that dollar risk level. And this setup didn't really qualify. It's still downtrending. If this becomes like a tsunami type panic, I might be interested in that for the 11 a.m. reversal. It could maybe just do a normal reversal at any point as well, but you know, higher priced OTCs don't really work that well. I traded HTZZ yesterday. That one was a bit strange. It's not as strange as this one. This one's a bit lower priced, but I'll keep looking at this. AABB is interesting. I didn't really necessarily want to take a buy under VWAP, although this could be the first one, and then it tries to make maybe a double top here or a higher high and then continue an uptrend. Maybe I'll consider the second one, but at any point this thing can turn around just because of the fact that it's the fourth green day and it's made a very considerable move from 8 pennies to 27. So it could do something really nice, but I'm pretty cautious. And INND, if this one's going to float off of VWAP, I won't really be interested in it. Nothing right now, but I'll keep looking. Alright, it is 10:09 a.m. I would be a little upset if I missed this, but if I do, you know, that's going to be fine. But I'm super interested in just taking a short with AABB and risking the day high, which would be the reason why I have just a small position, honestly. But right now, what I see is an inverse head and shoulders. It could be an inverse head and shoulders playing off of VWAP. So here's a drop. This could be the head in theory, and then it makes a shoulder at some point, and I'll be watching closely if it makes the pattern. It doesn't have to, of course, but if it does, how strong it is. Maybe it tries to break the neckline and then it makes a move towards the highs, and then I'll watch how it plays around the highs. That's all I have. I'm just watching AABB. Maybe it will do something, maybe it won't. Alright, it is what is it, 10:22. I wanted to make an update. So I did do a short, and in theory I didn't get the best price because the pattern is still playing out, but I see that inverse head and shoulders, as I mentioned before, shoulder, head, shoulder. And I think maybe just a general rule, however many ticks the left shoulder is, 1, 2, 3 in this case, where it was kind of consolidating, I should at least double it for the right shoulder. So in this case it would be give or take maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to get an idea of how big maybe the right shoulder could be, because sometimes they do that a lot. Very common, not just listed stocks, but here an OTC stock. And I thought the inverse head and shoulders was going to finish very weakly, and at what time, 10:16, right about here. So I thought the shoulder was in right here. Maybe this was all it could do, but maybe I was too quick to want to be short this thing. But it looks like it's still trying to play off the pattern and make the shoulder, so I'm going to watch it and see how it plays along the neckline. No reason why I would want to add to my position, because if I do, then I have 3 trades to PDT, and then I can't short for a few days, so I don't want to do that. And the pattern could play out and break the neckline and maybe head towards the highs too, which is something I don't want to be a part of. So I'm going to stay with my position, and I'll gladly cover if this thing breaks a day high. It could do an inverse head and shoulders here, and I can learn a good lesson to just be a little more patient. But sometimes I feel like, you know, if I don't do it, I'll miss out. But this isn't a morning panic bounce play set up where I have to be quick. And I want to note, this is really cool with HTZZ. It had bad news, because in theory bad news, because Elon Musk was like, yeah, they're buying our Teslas, but they're not getting any special pricing because, you know, blah blah blah, short inventory, blah blah blah. Look at this move, man. This is a pretty crazy move, and it did turn around ultimately. There could be a dip buy opportunity, but I don't really want to tackle this because it's just a higher priced OTC. It's kind of iffy, but I've seen that happen before, where freaking like OTCs have a downtrend because of bad news, and then it just finishes up so nicely. I wish this was what happened to me yesterday when I traded it, right? But it looks similar, and this one really broke out, so that's pretty cool. Not the first time I've seen a stock do a really nice move. With that thing in mind that, you know, it has bad news, but it just like throws an FU and just uptrends like it did here, even if it's not going to last the entire day. So I just want to note that, and yeah, I'll keep looking at AABB, and I'll gladly cut losses if it does a new breakout over the day high, even if it's just a little baby one and then it turns around. That's totally cool too. Alright, this is 10:32, and honestly this is exciting whether I actually make money or I lose money here. This is an inverse head and shoulder, shoulder, head and shoulder right here. Not much margins. I did think about actually going long, right, and then, you know, going short later, but, you know, a move from what, best case 26, let's say 26.07 to, you know, 26.92, so not even the 27. What, that is like 3.5% at most. And here's the second higher low. It didn't really break past 27. We have two trend lines. This thing is going to be a symmetrical triangle, so it's going in both directions, down and up. It can break out, it can also break down. VWAP is also right here, so this thing is getting really tight. I mean, this thing could go either direction. It could do either one. I'll make an update to see what it does, but yeah, this is pretty interesting. Alright, it is 10:50, and I just covered. Now this thing can obviously keep continuously downtrending, but I tend to really take profits quickly. And if this was like a regular account that isn't a PDT account, I would probably covering in pieces instead of just, you know, one in, one out. But yeah, this thing broke towards the downside. It didn't have to, but it clearly did here because, well, you know, it's the fourth day. A lot of people used to short the first, the third green day, but then it turned into the fourth because I think too many people started shorting the third green day and they started to squeeze them. And then the fourth day, you know, today was another day with a gap up compared to the third day, which was also a gap up. And this thing was a former runner, an OTC. I'm not going to call it a pump if it's such a legitimate company with all of these great fundamentals. It's going to be like Tesla and keep squeezing people all the way to $1,000. So, you know, and then by then they'll have a lot of things, a lot of products. But I don't really know the fundamentals on this company too much. But just trading off of the price action, not trying to throw shade at a stock or anything like that. Just trading by the price action. That's what I was interested in, and it might try to put up right now like an uptrend. I guess I was kind of right covering at 24.3, right, because it felt like it might have been able to turn around at that point. But what this thing can do is put up just a bunch of you know, lower highs, and then it can just keep going further. But that was a really fat percent gain. I guess not that fat, 8%. And I made just $5 off of that short position because I traded just a tiny $65 position. So if anyone's mad at me for shorting the stock, it was only $65. I'm sure, you know, that's not very much to some people. So you know, this thing can totally continue the downtrend, and I just might have been quick as I normally am. But again, if this was like a regular non-PDT account, a cash account, which you can't short on a cash account, but if it was and I was playing the opposite direction, I would be selling in pieces, at least in theory. But this one was pretty cool to see work out. So yeah, I'll make an update and go over what this thing ultimately does by the end of the day. INND, I never really traded it, but I could have traded this dip under VWAP, the first dip under VWAP, right? And now it's trying to float off of VWAP too, which is always nice, but this one is a bit sketchy like AABB. This thing was on its fourth green day, but at least, unlike AABB, this one wasn't doing those freaking gap ups, which like just adds a whole bunch of more instability if you ask me. So this thing could have been a buy at 205, and then, you know, you hold for a higher low. The double tops here, I might have considered selling at 215-ish, but it did do a higher low here, and now it's at like the 220 level. Yeah, about that level. and maybe it'll keep uptrending. I don't know. NLST did turn around here, but you see here's an example where they try to be desperate. They raise the ask, and then people do jump in at the bid, and it does uptrend, right? But look how freaky wicky it looks. It did do it. It did work here, but they did fail there, right? In theory, or maybe that's just price action, and I have a tinfoil hat. But you know, it did do a move towards VWAP, which is a goal. Also with HTZZ, this was a goal too. You know, look right when it turned around. I used to crap on VWAP and say, yeah, whatever, just degenerate, day trading, whatever. A lot of setups play off of VWAP, and I like it a lot. Notice how it turned around here, and I also did some quick math. If I, you know, having an $8 risk level, I buy at 36.90, and I risk 36 breaking, so I'm risking 90 cents, give or take. There's going to be some slippage. You times that by 10, that's $9 of loss. So that's a $9 risk level, pretty close to my $8 risk level. And that could have been an entry at 36.90. And then I was thinking it was trying to top around 40. And then that would have been, you know, like what, $40 profits, right? Something like that. No, just under 40. But that's an idea of how I need to start calculating risk reward, my dollar risk level. Let's just go over my dollar risk level, which is in theory $8. When I was short at 26.31, right? Why does it look like that? This is why does it say my estimated cost is 6 pennies? Am I having like a brain fart right now? Oh, that's right, yeah. That was 26.31 was my short, and I just traded, what was it? Geez, what was it, like 250 shares. Again, I was short 26.31. That was 10.16. So right here, because I thought, you know, it wasn't gonna work out. Because I thought that inverse head and shoulders was already in. It actually did play out. Again, it made that shoulder here. I guess I'll get rid of extend hours just for a little, just to show that it's a little clearer. Shoulder, head, shoulder, second higher low, and then it didn't make a higher low. It made a slight lower lower. You can call this a double bottom, and then it broke VWAP, right, which was also that same level, and that made that nice move to where it is, and this thing can obviously continue to downtrend or maybe uptrend, but maybe put up lower highs or something like that. But then we had these two trend lines, so it failed the trend line, it broke under VWAP, lower low from the inverse head and shoulders, second higher low, and then, you know, it's a fourth day, it's a OTC runner, like a former runner. It's a, you know, having like at least two gap ups, right, with considerable percent differences, like in terms of what it jumped a decent percent amount, just being you know, just a gap up. So all these things into consideration, and then I risked the day high. So again, I'm short here, right, and in theory $65, right? That's my position size. If I cover, and I added some slippage, so if I were to cover, you know, if it breaks the day high 28.54 and it goes to 29, so I cover at 29, so $65, right? 29, so that's 72, that's $7, so that's really close to my $8 risk level, and that's why I shorted 250 shares. This setup did work out. Maybe I was too early with my cover. Right now it's slightly below my cover if you look at the bid, because I covered at 243, right, and now it's 242 by 244. There's a spread, a little baby spread. It's not really that much, honestly, but that's nice. We'll see if this breaks. This freaking, I don't know what you call it, a freaking lawn chair, I don't know. I'll make an update to see what it does. I'm not really interested in trading anything else, but yeah, this might be the last recording for right now, and I'll make an update at the end of the day, unless I see something so amazing that I have to trade it. And maybe the degenerate side of me is just going to keep watching HTZZ because I just want to learn from this price action. This was pretty cool. I could have traded this as well. Alright, it is 12:30 and I just wanted to take a look and see what was happening. Dude, AABB is having a bloodbath. Now, it did offer some dip buying opportunity, but I don't necessarily like trading them after 10 a.m. and it did make a move 22 to what, 23, not much range, and then this is an inverse head and shoulders in theory, shoulder, head, shoulder, and that went from what, this 22.3 level to 23.16. Not really the 11 a.m. kind of bounce setup because it wasn't like down 20% on the day. It did have a gap up, but that is impressive, like at 19. And don't forget, my cover was back here at like 1049ish, 1050, right here at 243. Right here was my cover. It did a puny attempt to bounce back, and then it broke the level right here, and then it made this whole price action, the inverse head and shoulders, that absolutely failed. For all the reasons that I mentioned in the other recording, and had I have still have been short, I mean, that would have been a $15 gain right now at least. I mean, let's see right here, my cover was 60.75 and that was $5. So right now, let's do the ask. Yeah, so $12 more, I would be up $17 right now on like a very tiny freaking $65 position. I don't know what kind of percent gain that is, but that is a really massive percent gain. And I would totally, if I was still short, be covering right here, because it has tried a few times to hold this level, but it can keep going because this thing is, you know, for all the reasons that I mentioned before, just had a lot of potential to be a short setup. And it could have, you know, broken the day high. It would have cut losses, and it could have made another fourth day like a nice move, or maybe just barely excuse me, barely break out the day high and then fail and then just really screw with me. But that is pretty impressive. It's 12:32. I'll make an update a few hours later, if not when the market is closed, and see what it does from here. Alright, it is 5:16 p.m. and I am here to call it off. This is very close to best case scenario. Super nice move, and I did the math. A drop from my entry and then a perfect cover at like 16.3 is a 37% move throughout the day, which was like just crazy. With my position, even with my position at $65, right, times 37, that would have been a $24 gain, best case scenario, 37%. Instead, I ended up with $5 and 8%, and you know, I'm not really that salty. If I maybe had like a super large short selling accounts, and you know, it's not on it's not in the PDT accounts, right, I would probably cover in pieces throughout the day, and I probably would have considered covering some here as well as here. And then I would have been super happy when I see this failed inverse head and shoulders play out, and I would have probably have covered the rest here. I don't think, I mean, it's all hindsight 2020, I would have covered all the way down here, but this was a super nice move. I had this thing since yesterday, the idea of wanting to get short, and it also helped to see that some other traders were also interested in short this one as well. I think one of them is still holding his position, and I think that's kind of crazy. But one thing I think I could have done better, even though it doesn't, you know, it doesn't seem like much because it dropped so much. I should have been more patient, seeing how that inverse head and shoulders played out, shoulder, head, shoulder. It did do that. It did do a second higher low, and instead of maybe shorting at 6.3, I could have been short like 6.7, and that would have been a lot better. Even 27 perhaps. But yeah, it looks like the trend lines actually disappeared. This one was pretty nice. Almost best case scenario. I mean, this is still super nice, but I think best case scenario is like when it gets halted and then it opens like a few days later down 80%. I haven't really seen those. Those are like what people say classic pump and dumps. I haven't really seen one of those really play out. And another one, although that one might be kind of hard, because if you have to be short for a bunch of days, maybe if the short interest is too much, it's not worth it, and it actually becomes unprofitable. I remember this one, NSAV was a super nice one as well. This one went from freaking 11 cents and it closed at like 5 cents, right? Almost 6 cents. Even if you were short here, right, at the very bottom, and then you feel like crap because maybe in this day it did run up towards the end of the day. I don't really know how this one played intraday, but the next day it freaking opened at like 1 penny, which was like absolutely crazy from that level there. Super profitable. I don't know if that one was shortable, but yeah, pretty nice here. And if I wanted to be more aggressive, perhaps I could have tried buying the dips as well. Like here was a nice one, here was a nice one, and I don't think I would have maybe have traded this because it just keeps failing. But maybe I had inverse head and shoulders here, shoulder, head, shoulder, maybe. But that's probably hindsight thinking. Overall, pretty happy because I did trade according to my plan, which was the $8 risk level. I did do that. I'm gonna keep trying to push myself because it helps for sure, you know, trade larger position sizes than I would normally trade because I'm trading off of $1 risk level. And then on my winners and losers, I keep trading, and if I keep seeing that I'm doing well holding that $8 risk level, give or take, I might move it up to 10 or 15 and then keep working forward, ideally. And yeah, I still have a lot of room for improvement, but this was a super nice one. I'm happy that, you know, I had this mindset of being interested in shorting this. So yeah, that was super nice here with AABB. Even though I only got to be a part of it for $5 and $65 position, but it's still super nice. And yeah, I hope I can be more profitable on the next one and trade better. You know, I don't mind that I'm not that well covering, you know, and selling, but I definitely need to work on my position sizing. NLST, it looks like it did turn around here, as I said before, and it had another drop actually, 679 to 719, and you see how much nicer this one is. You can see the nice green candles, while this one was like a big choppy mess where the spread was ridiculous. I'm not saying this one was perfect, but it was definitely better than it was back there. Man, I would have been happy if my HTZZ did that. Whoop! That was ridiculous. Did he even have a red candle in here? Maybe one right here. This is like the kind of thing where if it just does this perfect red and green candle action to sell when it has the first red candle, that is just crazy. INND, this one did do that VWAP thing. It goes under VWAP, uptrending on the daily, and then, you know, higher lows. But I was too busy looking at HTZZ and AABB. A lot of room for improvement. I could have done better waiting for that inverse head and shoulders to play out and see if it works and breaks the trend line. Oh, the trend lines are back. I thought they were gone. And it keeps making nicer moves, or you know, on top of that, just no, that was about it. I should have done better with that. Maybe consider the dips, but not really. And then HTZZ, I could have tried something there, but I have a great excuse that I was trading AABB, as well as not trading INND, but definitely could have, in theory, maybe had two positions at the same time. There's a lot of room for improvement. What else can I say? I have a long way to go, but super happy to participate once again in this setup here, even if I didn't, you know, do a nice cover. Just pretty nice, and I'm gonna call it off right here. Just an overall pretty good day, and yeah, I have to keep trying hard to really stick to my dollar risk level, and then if I keep seeing that I'm doing it right as I try to improve on my exits, then for sure I'm gonna definitely raise my dollar risk level and just keep improving. I think I have a path to take, but I definitely need to try harder and put in a lot more effort and just keep going in the right path, I think.